Well, ladies and gentlemen, it seems like there is a new force that is out there that is trying to fight the age verification laws that are happening all across the country and, quite frankly, all across the world. One of these forces is known as Bluesky. Yes, I know, PDF Sky, the one social media website that is out there and is essentially dying completely, and the numbers are dwindling drastically. Bluesky, of all social media websites, is trying to fight the recent law that is trying to pass in Mississippi for their own personal age verification law. They are citing multiple reasons as to why they are fighting against this law, and they are calling it likely unconstitutional as well. I find all of this to be extremely ironic, considering that right now they have a response on their website that we are going to go over in this video, talking about their response to Mississippi's age assurance law. Meanwhile, this is the same Bluesky that bent over completely when the UK said, hey, we need you to do this in terms of protecting children. They literally bent over to the UK for their age verification nonsense, but for some reason, they're out here fighting the Mississippi one. And like I said, they do want to distinguish the reasons why they are fighting Mississippi and basically bending over for the UK version. So we're going to get into this article from PC Gamer with a headline that reads, Bluesky goes dark in Mississippi over a likely unconstitutional age verification law. In case you guys might not be aware, as you're watching this video, Bluesky is currently unavailable in the state of Mississippi. If you try to join Bluesky from an IP address that's located in Mississippi, you will be unable to do so. You'll be greeted with a message telling you to basically go fuck off. That is at least until they verify whether or not this law is going to stick or not, because they're currently fighting this law. A lot of people are fighting this law right now in Mississippi. So it says the law requires social media sites to verify and track the ages of all users in the state. Now, we talked about the Mississippi law in another video, but in case you missed that video because YouTube sucks and doesn't notify you, quite frankly, Mississippi has taken it way beyond what Texas, for example, has already done, where they put age verification laws to essentially fight against pornographic material. Mississippi, however, has put age verification for everything, whether it's safe for work, not safe for work, social media, regular websites, it doesn't matter. You basically have to verify your age consistently across multiple different platforms. You have to give your information, your ID, your facial scan to multiple different platforms. It is absolutely insane how far Mississippi has decided to go with their own personal age verification law that has absolutely nothing to do with protecting children and everything to do with literally everything else. The U.S. Supreme Court recently chose not to intervene, for now anyway, in the enforcement of a Mississippi state law that requires social media websites to verify and track user ages. As a result, unofficial Twitter offshoot Bluesky will go dark in the state. Starting today, if you access Bluesky from a Mississippi IP address, you'll see a message explaining why the app isn't available, wrote the company in a statement published online. This block will remain in place while the courts decide whether the law will actually stand. Now, the Mississippi law says that social media sites must verify the ages of new users and obtain parental consent before allowing kids under 18 to make an account. The sites must also make commercially reasonable efforts to develop and implement a strategy that insulates known minors from certain harmful material and behaviors such as online bullying, sexual exploitation, or anything that may encourage substance abuse. The law exempts a number of services, including those whose primary function is to provide access to online video games, so Steam is likely unaffected. But you can bet that Valve and every other big gaming company is closely watching the development of internet age verification laws in the US, UK, and elsewhere. Well, I mean, listen, to be real, they are currently dealing with a bunch of nonsense that is being thrown their way from companies like Collective Shout and the UK Online Safety Act. There is a multitude of different things that are happening all at once right now. And it basically seems as if everybody is trying to start wars on different fronts, and it's all seemingly happening all at once. So what I want to do is go over Bluesky's actual response, okay? They posted this on August 22nd of 2025. They posted this 2 days ago as of the time of filming this particular video. And again, I find this to be very ironic because they're posting our response to Mississippi's age assurance law, essentially denying it, and they don't want to deal with it, and they are basically going to ban the service from Mississippi until further notice. I find it ironic that they're doing this, considering that on July 10th of 2025, they said that they're working with the UK government to protect children online. So why is it that you are okay with doing it for the UK, but you're not okay with doing it for Mississippi? What is it about Mississippi that is turning you off so much? Well, we're going to find out in this video. Keeping children safe online is a core priority for Bluesky. We've invested a lot of time and resources building moderation tools and other infrastructure to protect the youngest members of our community. We're also aware of the trade-offs that come with managing an online platform. Our mission is to build an open and decentralized protocol for public conversation, and we believe in empowering users with more choices and control over their experience. We work with regulators around the world on child safety. For example, Bluesky follows the UK's Online Safety Act, where age checks are required only for specific content and features. Mississippi's approach would fundamentally change how users access Bluesky. The Supreme Court's recent decision leaves us facing a hard reality. Either we comply with Mississippi's age assurance law and make every Mississippi Bluesky user hand over sensitive personal information and undergo age checks to access the site, or we risk massive fines. The law would also require us to identify and track which users are children. Unlike our approach in other regions, we think this law creates challenges that go beyond its child safety goals and creates significant barriers that limit free speech and disproportionately harm smaller platforms and emerging technology. Again, ladies and gentlemen, what world do we live in where Bluesky is the one that we have to agree with in this certain scenario? Yes, of course, implementing all of these laws are going to go for government overreach. Of course, that's just how this stuff goes. Anytime the government tends to do something like this, they are always going to overreach if they are given the opportunity to do so. If nobody fights them on any front, they will gladly take all the power that you hand up on a silver platter. Why wouldn't they? Unlike tech giants with vast resources, we're a small team focused on building decentralized social technology that puts users in control. Age verification systems require substantial infrastructure and developer time investments, complex privacy protections, and ongoing compliance monitoring, costs that can easily overwhelm smaller providers. This dynamic entrenches existing big tech platforms while stifling the innovation and competition that benefits users. So I feel like what we're seeing here is that Bluesky is essentially saying that they don't have the means or the ability to do the content moderation that Mississippi is asking for. What Mississippi is asking for is only possible from mid-tier to high-tier companies with a lot of resources. Bluesky is not that company because, let's be real, their website is dead, right? If it's not dead, it's definitely dying. So they don't have the resources, and they're trying to use that as an excuse as to why they can't follow Mississippi law, but they somehow have the resources and the abilities to bend over for the UK government. So I just don't understand. But anyway, we believe effective child safety policy should be carefully tailored to address real harms without creating huge obstacles for smaller providers and resulting in negative consequences for free expression. That's why until legal challenges to this law are resolved, we've made the difficult decision to block access from Mississippi IP addresses. We know this is disappointing for our users in Mississippi, but we believe this is a necessary measure while the courts review the legal arguments. Here is more on our decision and what comes next. So here is the reason why they say that they are supposedly doing this. Mississippi's HB 1126 requires platforms to implement age verifications for all users before they can access services like Bluesky. That means under the law, we would need to verify every user's age and obtain parental consent for anyone under 18. The potential penalties for non-compliance are substantial, up to $10,000 per user. Building the required verification systems, parental consent workflows, and compliance infrastructure would require significant resources that our small team is currently unable to spare, as we invest in developing safety tools and features for our global community, particularly given the law's broad scope and privacy implications. So basically, what I said earlier is pretty much true, where they are a small team. They don't have the ability to do this. They don't have the money to do this. They don't have the infrastructure to do this. They don't have the development team to do this. They're basically asked out. This law is so demanding that it's going to require the most out of all these companies, and only the biggest companies or even like the mid-tier companies are going to be able to do something like this. Otherwise, the smaller companies, well, they're going to get completely phased out. Actually, the ironic thing is I agree with Bluesky to an extent that it is anti-competition, where these smaller companies that do not have the means to do this are not going to be able to compete anymore, because now this new law is basically requiring that all these companies become the nanny of the internet, right? They have to basically get parental consent and all this nonsense. It's absolutely fucking insane. So here's their concerns about this in bullet points. It says, while we share the goal of protecting young people online, we have concerns. Broad scope. The law requires age verification for all users, not just those accessing age-restricted content, which affects the ability of everyone in Mississippi to use Bluesky. Barriers to innovation. The compliance requirements disadvantage newer and smaller platforms like Bluesky, which do not have the luxury of big teams to build the necessary tooling. The law makes it harder for people to engage in free expression and chills the opportunity to communicate in new ways. Privacy implications. The law requires collecting and storing sensitive personal information from all users, including detailed tracking of minors. And this is a huge problem, right? The privacy implications is a massive problem. People will try to gaslight you and they'll try to say, well, the government already has your ID. The government already knows who you are. Yeah, that's right. The government knows who you are, but the third-party websites do not or should not. This is why they don't have access to your ID. This is why they do not have access to your credit card unless you give it to them. This is why, like, all these random websites do not have access to this information. Now you are basically saying that you need to give this information to every fucking website that you access. It's insane. Whether or not it's safe for work or not. If it's a social media website, it doesn't matter. They want you to give this information to all of these companies now, these third-party companies. Sure, these companies had your first name. Your last name, right? They had your address. They have all that stuff, but they didn't have your fucking ID. Some of them didn't even have your credit card unless you were paying premium for them or something like that. Like YouTube, most people don't pay for YouTube premium. So now you're basically forced to give them a credit card for age verification. I mean, goddamn, like it's just unbelievable. It really is. So anyway, starting today, if you access Bluesky from Mississippi IP address, you'll see a message explaining why and the app isn't available. This block will remain in place while the courts decide whether the law will stand. So we shall see what's going on with this entire nonsense, right? They even know that people are going to call them hypocrites for following and bending over to the UK government. So they put in a little section here saying how this differs from our approach in other places, namely the UK's Online Safety Act, right? Oh, it's very different, guys. Bluesky follows the OSA in the UK. There, Bluesky is still accessible for everyone. Age checks are required only for accessing certain content and features. So they were okay with censoring themselves as long as it's restricted content. But then, like always, it comes for everything, right? Sure, it starts off with the Gooner material, but then eventually it's going to come for everything. And now suddenly you want to bend the knee? Well, this is what happens when you bend the knee initially. They're going to come for everything, and you allowed them to do it. So we're going to see what happens with this. We got to follow and kind of, I guess have a little follow-up session as to what actually happens, whether or not the Supreme Court decides to get involved or not. They're choosing not to right now anyway, but in the future that might change. So you guys let me know in the comments down below, what do you think about Bluesky? What do you think about this entire situation? What do you think about the Mississippi law? Do you think that should be enacted everywhere? Do you think it should be enacted nowhere? Do you think the Supreme Court should get involved? Whatever that may be, let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it, consider hitting that like and subscribe button, as we are nearly right there at 100K, and I will see you guys on the next one.